In 1983, in the midst of the second British invasion, a new wave band scaled the top of the US charts with a one-hit wonder for the ages. The former lead singer tells us the story of this wonderful ditty, next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Make sure to hit the subscribe button right below. Do that right now to be a part of a community that's dedicated to the timeless music of the rock era with interviews and stories straight from the artist. Also, look us up on Patreon to be a part of curating this golden era of rock. Now, the term one-hit wonder, it's an interesting one. I've talked about this before. I just don't feel like it captures a band or their song universally. But what I mean is that a lot of times it's inaccurate when describing an artist and their music. I mean, nobody would ever call Jimi Hendrix a one-hit wonder because he only had one chart hit in America. Ditto the Grateful Dead, who had their one charting hit decades after starting with Touch of Grey. Sometimes an artist can have many hits on the other side of the ocean, like Robbie Williams or Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and be deemed a one-hitter here in the States. So on here, we celebrate the big single, that big chart hit. We call it Bottled Lightning, when music and culture combined to make history. 1983 had one such hit, as the British had invaded American airways for a second time, with Duran Duran, The Police, Gary Newman, The Pretenders, Joe Jackson, many others infiltrating the charts, challenging the mellow soft rock of the time. A band called Kajagoogoo, named after the sound a baby makes, started their ascent with a bass-infused synth-pop ditty called Too Shy. It had already hit number one in the UK in January of '83. Kajagoogoo had started out as Art Nouveau in 1978. They were an avant-garde quintet with Nick Beggs on bass guitar, Steve Askew on lead guitar, Stuart Croxford, Neil on keyboards, and Jez Strode on drums. They released a single, The Fear Machine, which sold a couple hundred copies, and they were actually on the John Peel show. But they weren't able to lock down a record deal at that point. In 1981, they advertised in a local paper for a new lead singer. Enter Christopher Hamill, whose stage name is Limahl, which of course an anagram of his surname. From there, they changed their name to Kajagoogoo. They signed with EMI Records in mid-1982, and this was after Limahl met Duran Duran keyboardist Nick Rhodes while he was working as a waiter at London's Embassy Club. Of course, this would prove to be a fateful meeting as Rhodes would end up co-producing Too Shy, the band's debut single. Actually, it was Nick Rhodes and longtime Duran Duran producer Colin Thurston. They both worked on Too Shy. The single went to number one on the UK singles chart, which surprisingly, they accomplished this feat before any of Duran Duran's singles. Hungry Like the Wolf went to number 5 and Save a Prayer went to number 2. Of course, Duran Duran wouldn't have to wait much longer. A few months later, Is There Something I Should Know hit the top spot. I think that was in early summer of '83. Too Shy was a smash worldwide. It scaled the charts in European countries and Japan. It spent 5 weeks at number one in Germany. It also reached the top of the summit in Belgium and Ireland, as well as reaching number 2 in France and Switzerland. And it went to number 4 in Sweden, Austria, and the Netherlands. In the US, they carried the song up the charts on the strength of the memorable music video, of course played on MTV when it was just in its infancy. It had been around a few years. It was played in heavy rotation on that network, and that success played for a top 5 placing in the Billboard Hot 100. The band had several other hits in their native UK, as their next single, Ooh to Be Ah, went to number 7. And another song performed after Limahl had been ousted from the band went to the top 10 called Apple. In the US, neither of the songs charted, and Too Shy remains the band's only top 40 hit, although Limahl would hook up with Giorgio Moroder and return to the charts with the soundtrack song The Never Ending Story, which found new life on Stranger Things a few years back. And we do have the story of that one from Limahl. It's up on Patreon if you want to see it. Maybe we'll release that sometime here. We'll have to see. But coming right up, the story of one of the awesome 80s greatest songs, Too Shy, is told by former singer Limahl. As we go into this interview, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. Go get yourself a new pair of glasses or sunglasses at zenni.com. You can actually design your own like mine. I actually had them put Professor of Rock on the side here. You can put any design there. You choose. You can also do a virtual 3D try-on before you buy. Here is Limahl with the story of an 80s classic.
I just remember that I was the kid at the back of the class in school with the radio, the discreet radio, not doing my studies. I don't recommend this to other kids, okay? You know, we had these really terrible cheap radios, and it was a mono, so you got one headphone in one ear. You know, technology, eh? I mean, we're going back to the 60s. I was born in 58. So there weren't all the radio channels that you've got now. So in the UK, there was this famous radio station that had been forced off the air. And so the guy chartered a boat out in the ocean. And this was, it was called Radio Caroline. And the signal was terrible. So you've been listening along, and this was something to do with, you know, whether there was a storm out on the ship or the way the wind was blowing. So you'd be listening to your favorite song, and then suddenly it would get all crackly and it would fade away, and you'd be really upset, especially if you're like trying to record it illegally. So yeah, I was just so passionate about music. I don't really know where that came from.
What was the music that caught your ear?
Well, I've talked about this many times. It was Motown. You could hear anything on a radio station. Yeah. I just liked songs, really. And then I graduated as Motown took over the world. And there was a key event that happened in my life. I won a singing contest at this Northern Soul venue. Now, Northern Soul, do you know about that genre of music?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we'd get people like Gloria Jones appearing at the Wigan Casino doing the original version of Tainted Love, which later became a huge hit for Soft Cell. In fact, that's where Mark Allman heard the song, in the Northern Soul clubs in Leeds, where he was from.
Sometimes I feel I've got to run away. I've got to get away. Oh, baby, baby, where did our love go?
And anyway, they had this singing contest, and I won. And I won 10 albums of my own choice. Of the 10 albums that I won, 5 of them were Motown. And half of me loved the music and half of me loved the artwork on the albums because they were phenomenal. Anybody watching this, go online and look at the original artwork for Motown's Greatest Hits 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think I had. And they were amazing.
Even the label was just beautiful.
Of course. And on this tour that I'm on now, the last stop is Detroit. I delayed my flight so I could go to the Motown Museum. I'm very excited about that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Baby, try.
Too Shy was such a massive hit. I mean, it still is. It's #1 in the UK and Germany, #2 in Switzerland, and then, of course, #5 in America. And if you think about new wave music in 82, 83, it was still making its entrance into our lexicon, into the minds of people. And to be a top 5 hit, that was huge. I mean, only a few people had done it. Human League, of course, did it with Don't You Want Me.
Don't you want me, baby?
But that was such a massive synthesizer-driven song. And there's a song, of course, about you giving advice to a girl. Tell me about how that song came together, what you remember about arranging it and writing it and recording it.
Well, the song started with the intro. And we all had such different influences. You know, Jez, the drummer, was into Devo.
Whip it good.
And Nick was into Frank Zappa. I was into Manhattan Transfer.
Information, please, hurry.
You know,
I love it.
it was a crazy mixture of influences. And you know, with songwriting, you really stumble on stuff. Any musician out there knows that. You just play around and you try stuff, you edit it, you try it that way, try it this way. You can spend hours doing that. And you have to do it, I imagine, even more today because you have a century of lyrics and melodies. I mean, what is there left to write? But we had these fantastic jazz chords at the beginning, and then Nick started playing that bass. And we're all going, oh yeah, that sounds great. And then it got to the verse, and it fell on its ass, to put it, bluntly. It just went flat, and we were like, oh no, that's not working. And so then, I remember I said to Stuart, we need to keep those chords going. That pad thing, it was so warm and made you feel good. And so it kind of evolved. I think the last section that was done was the middle, and I think that was Nick. We added on the doo-doos because it's very hard to find anything else to put there. It makes me smile when I remember that the bridge, the 4-bar section before the chorus, where it's the 6 words, hey girl, move a little closer, okay?
Hey girl, move a little closer.
Originally that section had 35 words. Wow. And I've still got the tape that shows that. A recording from the living room when we were, and I forgot that I had it. I had a bag of cassettes in my loft. And when I found that, I was like, oh my God, listen to it, So, it's wonderful to sit here 35 years later and talk about this song that clearly means a lot to people. It's part of the soundtracks of their lives. Their first dance, their first lover, their first kiss behind the school sheds or what, I don't know, so.
And also the way that it reintroduces itself to the newer generations through movies and music and video games. I mean, Grand Theft Auto and Sims 2, and of course, in the Adam Sandler movie, A Wedding Singer.
Just gotta say hello.
And it's been used in Gilmore Girls and Ghost Rider, and it's just such a part of that 80s culture. And the 80s are as big now as they've ever been.
Thank you.
My kids love Too Shy. And they love the video too, and I've shown them live versions when you're singing it, because when you do the little bit close, and then you do the Too Shy eye to eye, I mean, it's just so catchy. It's almost like, that part's almost like a nursery rhyme, like kids can sing it, and it just tattoos its way on your soul.
But the weird thing, if you think about it, if you took the synthesizer from the bridge, which has got that very distinctive bong, 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 it's fairly classic instruments, so drums, bass, guitar, and a string pad. The bass line's unusual. There's a synth riff in the chorus, but that could easily be a piano. And there's a few production toys. But I think that's why it works live. Whereas if we get to talk about Never Ending Story, that sequencer, that has to come off track because no one can play that live.
Oh, I know.
But that's Georgia Murray. I'm going to blame that on him in a good way, of course. If we never had Donna Summer, I Feel Love, synthesizer, sequencer, toys for the boys, playing around with, we wouldn't have that great record.
Well, in the video too, the emergence on MTV, it was like it came at the perfect time when MTV was being watched in full color. You were seeing music videos, and that video is such a classic video. And now it's found new life on YouTube where people are watching like crazy.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the video?
I remember that it cost £35,000, which was a lot of money back then. Now you could probably make the same video for 5,000, because technology's evolved. I remember that Ali Espley, the model, who
married
Dennis Miller, was a friend of mine, friend of the band actually. And I was with her the night she met Dennis, but that's another story. So they talked about the era's change. It's very subtle. I don't think a lot of people even realize that in the video. It's supposed to go from 40s to 50s or 60s to the 70s, something like that. It was fun. It was a long day. There was a lot of production people on that. And I said to the director, I know the perfect girl for the video. She's a friend of mine. And he met Ali, and You know, she's immortalized as this, what was she then, 25 or something? And she was modeling in London.
The one last thing I want to ask you about Too Shy, the chorus is the thing that always stands out. How did that chorus come about? Did you just like start singing it, or how did you craft that?
Shy, shy, hush, hush, shy do I. It could have been Nick. I don't really remember. We were just thrashing ideas around. And that phrase stuck.
Because the way you sing it too, that lives on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a pop voice. You know, there's no bones about it. You know, I don't have a rock voice. I've got
There's
this
Broadway in it.
Yeah, it's kind of smooth. You
Yeah.
know, it has its tone. It works on that song, and I'm grateful for that.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about this Bottle Lightning classic. What do you remember about this song? It is such a part of the pop culture lexicon. Share your memories. I would love to hear them. What are some other Bottle Lightning songs that you think we ought to cover on this show? Man, just to hit me, the 80s are so amazing. So amazing. Actually, I have an 80s store below where I've handpicked items from the 80s, including books and merch. If you check that down below in our Amazon links, you can go back to the 80s for a time. Make sure to hit the subscriber button if you like this content, if you love the 80s and more. And make sure to check us out on Patreon, where you can see Limahl telling the story of the never-ending story. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there.